Friends, hello, this is Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up, where two writers just talk about whatever comes to mind. This episode is is a great example of that. We really just shot the shit, and it was fantastic. It's a good episode when I forget we're even recording. It's just two friends talking about struggle in writing. Before we get to today's guest, so today I'm going to plug my newsletter. I put a lot of work into my newsletter. That's not a reason you should subscribe. You should subscribe because I think it's good. It comes out on the 13th of every month. I'm only going to send it once a month. That's all you'll really hear from me. And I always have an essay. I always have updates from my kids, my pets. I have latest episodes of this podcast and book, TV, and film recommendations, along with hopefully some humor, hopefully some insights. But I've gotten a lot of good feedback on my newsletter. I've been doing it for probably 7 or 8 years every month. So check it out. You can just sign up at carterwilson.com. All right, today I talked to my friend Matt Sullivan. So Matthew Sullivan, he's the author of, you might know this book, Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore, which was an Indie Next pick, a Barnes & Noble Discover pick, and a GoodReads Choice Award finalist, along with the winner of the Colorado Book Award. So this book just blew up several years ago, and he has just followed it up last year with his book, Midnight in Soap Lake. So I'm going to forget exactly how we came to know each other, but I hosted him at the Tattered Cover Bookstore for his launch event for Midnight in Soap Lake last year, meaning I was his in-conversation partner. And so I got a chance to read the book, it's a fantastic book. We talk about it a bit in the podcast. It's been likened a lot to Twin Peaks. It's got a weird vibe to it, which is exactly what I like. It's got a strange edge. And we just kind of hit it off at the Tattered Cover, and we see each other at conferences. And of course, I wanted him to come on the podcast. And we just had it's funny, we had a very heartfelt conversation, starting with kind of out of the blue, just talking about drinking and alcoholism and how that might affect your writing, and our own relationship with that, with our own families. And then it just went from there. A lot about, writing for years, getting rejections, but what those rejections actually might be ultimately pointing you towards. So I think it was a pretty, I don't know. It was a good conversation to me. It felt kind of cathartic. I was glad to spend time with my friend, hear what he's up to, and then hear his own experiences with writing, because I don't know him that well. So it was nice to hear his insights. And it's funny, we're actually very different in a lot of ways in how we approach writing. But I think the thing that binds us is our shared just passion for it. Just this is what we want to do. And a lot of the other stuff around it is just noise. It's noise that you have to learn to control. I think it's noise that you can learn to manage, and some noise that you have to listen to. If it's, you have to learn how to get better. You have to learn from feedback. But none of that can deter you from your singular focus, which is putting words on a page, telling a story, and using that to try to connect. So yeah, it was a fantastic conversation. I was glad I got to spend some time with him. This is my chat with Matthew Sullivan. You're up in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on kind of an island. Anacortes is the town, but it's
Okay.
it's an island with a bridge.
Okay.
But we have it's kind of a ferry port that leads out to all the other San Juan Islands, which are obviously not connected by bridges.
So a good
So
place for a body to wash up on shore is what
it's
you're
very,
saying.
yeah, it's very gloomy and atmospheric.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were just talking about BoucherCon. So you went to a panel, you were saying?
I went to a panel that you were on, and I think and afterward, I think I was scheduled right after that or had
Okay.
something else. So anyway, I saw you in passing and
Right.
booked out of there. But it was cool. It was good. It's
Were
always
you
fun.
at the panel that I went to where the moderator didn't show up?
No.
That was awesome.
Oh,
Like, and just as somebody who I love to moderate, I love to
yeah,
interview, like that is like the cardinal sin to me. I'm like, I hope that not hope, but maybe that person's really sick or whatever.
yeah,
But like,
yeah.
and so a couple of us just like you could tell like the type A interview personalities who were on the panel just jumped in and started like asking people questions and stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's cool. Oh,
And
cool.
it was fun. And
Yeah,
these are, the stakes aren't huge at these panels.
yeah, yeah. Right.
So it was totally fine. But I'm like, oh my God, I've never been to a panel where the moderator just
Just bailed.
no word.
And you have to wonder, like, I had like one pretty late night there, like 2 in the morning
Oh
at the
wow.
bar kind of thing. And I usually don't do that, but like there were people who were like in it for the night. Like they were all in, and you got to wonder, like
I
at
feel
New
like,
Orleans, panel at
yeah,
8 in the morning,
that's hard, man. I can't do that. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
I stopped drinking a few years ago, but like
yeah,
the thing that alcohol would do to me is, which is a bad sign, is it would wake me up. So
oh
I
yeah.
could go into like 2 in the morning and probably not even feel anything. I've had a couple conferences like that, but it's been a while. But now I'm like, if I'm not in bed by 9, I'm just nodding off.
Yeah, yeah, I've cut way back on drinking, and
Yeah.
I've noticed like just my mornings, my days, I'm just a little snappier. Like I'm already kind of slow. Like
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like a turtle guy,
Yeah.
like just kind of I just run a little slow. And I think alcohol, like it's like it drops it down a little
Yeah.
more. Just like a noticeable amount, just like a slight
Yeah.
sluggishness
Right.
that is like not a great combination. So
Yeah.
I feel, and I also come from a long line of alcoholics and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I
Well,
kind of have to
that's
be careful.
interesting that you're able to, because I noticed in myself, like, I don't know if my dad was an alcoholic, but I think probably however you want to define it, so we
Yeah.
all know about the genetics and the propensities, when that
Hmm.
runs in the family. And when I stopped, I was definitely a very high functioning drinker, not a day drinker, but at night
Yeah.
you're just sitting there with a bottle of wine watching Netflix for 3 or 4 hours. And
Yeah.
again, it would kind of keep me up. So then I would have more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you get to the point that you're just like this. To me, it becomes like not even like, oh, I'm having problems with writing or work or whatever. It's just like, if I do this for another 10 years at my age, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but for me, it's just like, I just quit, but I just haven't had a drop in 3 years. So
Hmm.
you being from a long line of alcoholics, being able to just be a light drinker is, to me, is very impressive.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've had kind of an interesting relationship with alcohol. Like I was like such a drunk bum in high school and
Hmm.
college. Like I was drunk. There were periods when I was like drunk like 6 nights a week.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was just
Yeah.
kind of a social thing. And it was
Right.
like, and it was kind of, I don't, I think of it as like I was connecting with other people and we were doing things like staying up late, solving the problems of the world and talking
Right.
and we were like interested in books and reading and that kind of stuff,
Right.
but we were also like all doing a lot of like psychedelics and smoking
Yeah.
a lot of weed
Yeah.
and drinking.
Yeah.
And after college, and I think as I started kind of, in my early to mid 20s, when I started getting more serious about writing, I started staying home from the bar because it was the only time that I could write. It was like Friday nights was like
Oh,
that
interesting.
was like my time. And
Yeah.
so I was like, if I'm gonna write, I have to like cut these other things out. And it was so easy to do that, which if you saw me like before that, like 3 years before that, you'd be like,
Yeah.
this guy's like in it for life.
Yeah.
And not that I was ever like out of control or anything, but I just drank a lot.
Right. You were
And
functional. Yeah.
I was just very functional, but and uh, I think because I had writing, I was able to flip that switch.
That's so interesting because you think of the stereotype, the Hemingway stereotype, right drunk, edit sober,
Yeah.
and the idea of like, I need, because so I write an hour a day, and that's my discipline, right? An hour a day. And it used to be that 5 p.m. hour, and it was I'm making my vodka gimlets and I'm sipping on my chilled. It was so ritualistic.
Yeah.
the chilled cocktail glass, and over time you start to convince yourself, I can't do this unless I'm drinking. Like if somehow it helps me creatively, even though you look back in your editor's comments of like, why is there 40 pages of this introspection? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I totally
Yeah.
know why.
This dog has three different names.
Right, right. What is happening here?
Yeah.
And now I'm 9 a.m. in a Starbucks drinking coffee, and that's when I write, and I feel energized. I feel like that's when my brain naturally works best anyway. But
Hmm.
it's funny because I think there is this idea that you need this crutch, regardless of whatever it is. And if you don't
Hmm.
have that crutch anymore, your writing is going to suffer. And I don't I don't think that's true. You have to be able to
It's,
write anywhere under any
yeah, I mean,
circumstances.
yeah, I mean, I really feel kind of the opposite of that, where it's like this, the really the main reason I kind of got away from drinking steadily was
Yeah,
just because of writing and and what it was doing to my writing, and even to
right.
the point now where a couple of years ago, so I for many years I didn't drink, or I'd like go out a couple times a year and get hammered, but like not drink the rest of the time
Right.
at all, like
Right.
maybe a beer with dinner once a month, if
Yeah.
even, just
Wow.
really kind of like cut it out of my life. And then I was like, I kind of got a taste for whiskey. And so what I did was I would have like one drink at night at 11 o'clock. It would
Yeah.
be like, I'm a late night person. I would have
Oh,
like
you
one
are.
drink and I would never have two. And it was totally fine. And I did that for years and years and years, like
Yeah.
one a night. But if I didn't have that one, it would kind of mess me up a little bit. I
Yeah.
would get like a little crabby and that kind of thing. And then I noticed that if I was kind of relying on that one drink so much that I just didn't like that. I didn't like the feeling.
Right.
And I did like a dry January at one point, and I was like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe how much better I feel.
Right.
One drink a night, like 30 nights a month, right? 365 nights a year
Right.
is like a lot of Costco bottles of like
Yeah.
Jameson,
a
you
hundred
know."
percent. Yeah.
And it's like because it's such a small amount and because it's so acceptable and because it's so controlled, like I wasn't really noticing how much it impacted me like in the morning when I'd sit down to
It was
write.
taking its toll.
It's
Yeah.
taking its toll, just like small, just like these little smudges. But I just noticed like, oh my God, after a month, like I feel so much more clear-headed. And honestly, I felt more creative.
Yeah. I believe that. And I do think that at the end of the day, I've said this time and time again, what matters most in writing is the muscle, is the years of that daily practice of writing, even if it's whatever, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That gives you the ability to tap into that natural creativity without having to go through the ritualistic struggle of doing so, of sitting there for an hour or waiting weeks for the muse or whatever. It's just like you've trained it. So, you think alcohol is the thing that helps you write in some cases, and you stop and you realize like, no, it's the fact that I write every day.
Mhm.
Nothing that helps me write more than the fact that I just write constantly. It's like breathing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 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 It's like like you said, it's a muscle. And I'm always, I think you told me that you write an hour a day before. I think
Okay.
when we were at Tattered Cover having a
Maybe.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I just am baffled by that because you have a steady output, right?
Yeah.
You're
Book a
doing,
year. Yeah.
yeah, that's a solid output. And I just feel like an hour a day, I don't know, like that to me is um like I'm just kind of like queuing up the the kind of like Microsoft Word or whatever in an
Yeah.
hour. Like
Right.
I'm
Right.
just kind of like, okay,
Right.
like just warming up. And I'm just so impressed by that.
Well, everyone's brain is different, right? Because
Yeah.
on the counter side of that, I don't understand. So, Stuart Turton blurbed your book. I
Yep.
interviewed Stu, and he's a great guy, and
Yep.
he's a fucking maniac because he writes 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I can't wrap my head around that. Even if I had, if that were my only responsibility, my muscle isn't strong enough. Like after an
Mhm.
hour, I can feel I can feel it becoming homework. You know,
Okay, yeah,
and you
yeah,
start to, because you build up to that, I guess. So I'm always impressed with people who can just sit and have these long writing sessions that can continue to tap into the creativity. I maybe the other part of it is I don't know what I'm doing. Like I literally don't know my plot. So
mm,
there are times when I feel like I know, okay, I think I know the scene in front of me. And then I get to the end of that scene and I'm like, you could feel it yourself forcing it a little bit. Like,
yeah,
well, what if they did this? Because that's just the top of the mind thing that just came into my head.
yeah.
And then you start to realize like it's not really a robust thought, but you're chasing it with
Mhm.
words just to get output. And to me, I'd rather just be like, if I have a glimmer of what's coming next, save that for tomorrow.
Okay, okay. So
So,
it is like it's almost like the way you're talking about it, it's like your view of it is very kind of crystallized. Like I want to when I sit down, I want it to be kind of focused. I want to kind of create this like gem and once I have that, like move on before it becomes like all the kind of soil around the gem or whatever that is, before it gets too messy, before it starts getting kind of out of
I think
out of
that's right.
control.
I mean, you know, instead of gym, I would say more like a gym where it's like, I know this is the workout I've got to do today. I'm going to
Yeah.
get in and out. I'm not thinking about my workout ahead of time. I'm not thinking about it afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm able to kind of pop in and out fairly easily. I don't really think about my story much of the rest of the day. There'll be
Well,
those
just like
moments, like the brushing your teeth moment where you've got nothing else to do for 2 minutes and all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe this is what the book is about.
yeah, yeah.
It's once in a while, and then I'll do a quick voice note, but most of the time I'm not thinking about it. What about you?
Oh, I'm the total opposite.
That's so funny.
I it's like I kind of so number one, I think so. I think we've talked about this before, but I taught for many years. I was a community college teacher,
Right.
and as an English teacher in the community college, and I also was doing a lot of kind of committee work and hiring committees and that kind of stuff, and also just grading.
Yeah.
So I would teach all week and planning, and I would teach like film classes. I was always like taking on classes that were kind of just beyond my comfort level. So then
Yeah.
I would kind of like study. I would like give
Yeah.
myself like almost like a self self-driven project. Like I'm going to learn about film techniques this year and really just kind of focus on it so
That's
that I
so
could
great.
teach well. And granted, it's teaching at the community college level, so a lot of it's like only needs to be introductory or kind of intro, like 100, 200 level college
Yeah. Yeah.
classes. But it still was like time consuming,
Right. Of
interesting, but
course.
time consuming. And so anyway, I bring all this up because what happened when I was teaching, I taught for 25 years,
Yeah.
is that I just didn't have time to
Right.
write ever. And so I would have to do things like grab an hour on a Friday night or during summer break, like resist taking summer classes. Like this is my time to write. Turn off email. Like there were summers when I did not check my email for 3 months.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
like I mean my work email.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
was like, I'm off contract. Like
Right.
you are not paying me to answer this email. So
Oh yeah, that
I'm
makes
like
sense.
disappearing and other people would check it and check in and all. Anyway, I bring all of that up because I think when I shifted from teaching full time to writing full time, I had this scarcity mindset about the
Hmm.
effort, energy, time that was available to me to write. I mean, I like fought for years for time to write, just being a busy person.
Yeah.
Weekends, it was like grading. I mean, I would grade, 75 essays in a weekend, and they would
Yeah.
take me 20 minutes, 25 minutes each, a lot of
Yeah.
times, depending on like whether they were research essays or narratives or whatever. So when I was able to kind of spend more time writing, I just became like Stuart Turton. I
Yeah.
do that. I feel like I need to be at the desk, and I'm not saying that that's healthy.
Yeah.
Don't mistake this for like a healthy relationship with writing.
Right.
It's just a way that it works. I also spend a lot of time like noodling. So I might be at my desk and kind of like jotting down notes. I always have like these notebooks and pieces of paper, and I've got a murder board, and I've got my like voice apps, and I've got my notes app on my phone, and I'll email myself sometimes. And so I have like It's like I've got all of these bits and pieces at any given time, and I think of all of that as writing. Or else I'll pick up a book and
Of
just be like,
course.
just kind of like flip through a book that I've really liked, not for like direct inspiration, but just to kind of like be in the world of words.
Right. It's osmosis in a way, or it's even like you're
Mhm.
watching Netflix and sometimes I'll just really stop and think about why a particular character like is resonating with me. Like, why do I like her so much? Why is she? I'll break down kind of her dialogue, or I'll think about like, why is this such a mess of a show? Like, and you deconstruct it. It kind of gets in the way, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think noodling is all part of it. I mean, I feel like again, I'm a little bit the opposite because I think we find what. So you're describing an example where you literally have no time, and when you were teaching, and that's 100% valid. I had a corporate job that was probably 40 hours a week. Yeah,
Mhm.
when I started writing, we were pregnant with our first kid, so all through that, but I was able to find an hour a day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I trained myself. That's why I still do it now. I think that's just my methodology. I
Yeah.
think there are writers out there who can find that 1 hour, but they build excuses around it because we're all busy in different ways. If you are truly working 70, 80 hours a week, it's tough. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really tough
Yeah.
to establish a practice, but you have to start thinking about where does writing lie on my list of passions in life.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's not up there with family,
Yeah.
then it is going to be very hard to continue with it because writing is hard enough. Then you get to
Yeah.
the idea of actually getting fucking published, which is completely out of your control for the most part.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it can get very disheartening. What's interesting about you, which I want to explore a little bit now, you come out with Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore as your debut. Granted, you had been, I'm sure, writing and writing and writing and writing. You might have
Yeah.
manuscripts that are
Yeah.
sitting in the desk, that whole thing.
My first published book.
Your first published book,
Yeah.
right? But your
Yeah.
first published book hits pretty hard. And that's not only unusual, it's not totally unusual, but it's definitely the exception. And it got a lot of accolades and a lot of sales.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny for both of us being kind of in this for a long time. We also see sometimes that's hard when you have your first experience, like, oh, this is fucking easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
I should have published
It,
a long time ago.
yeah. Yeah. If I knew it was like this, right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I should
I
just do
mean,
that. Yeah. It's kind of, that was an interesting experience because again, I was working full time
yeah,
and that book was such a labor of love. It took
right.
me from the time that I like actually started writing it until it actually hit the shelves was 10 years.
Yeah,
And so, and it's not that I worked on it for 10 years, I worked on it for a while. And I think like a lot of people, I had a pretty big misstep with an agent. It's so hard to get an agent.
right.
And I had, a particular agent kind of courted me, and I was thrilled because he's somebody who represents like a lot of authors that I really admire.
Huh.
And we worked together for a couple of years on that manuscript.
So let me interrupt you for a second
Yeah.
because I think listeners who are the preponderance of whom are writers are going to really want to understand how
Yeah.
the hell do you have an agent reach out to you?
Yeah, I had published some short stories
Okay.
that caught his attention.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and I've talked to a couple of other writers who where similar things have happened. So I'm talking about like short stories that are being published in a magazine that's read by five people,
Yeah.
but whose editors really liked my voice or liked
Yeah.
what I did with it or something. One particular story won a couple of awards,
Okay.
which is again really rare. It's just like you shoot it out into the void, you
See what
shoot it
happens.
to 300 people, and you get 299 rejections, and then one thing just happens
Right.
where it lands at the right editor's desk at the
Right.
right time. Suddenly, I've got a short story that's not only getting published, but it won $1,000 and
Right.
or something like that. And so I think so that's kind of how he reached out to me because of that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was looking for agents.
Yeah.
I was kind of like sending out again 300 queries and getting a few nibbles here and there. And this is on previous books. These are books before midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore that have never seen the light of day. Um,
Right.
book. So I'd written two full manuscripts before that and shopped
Right.
them around and had nibbles from agents, but had
Sure.
never landed one.
Right.
And I think that's pretty common.
That's
I felt
very good.
really,
That was my experience. Yeah.
and you probably felt lucky to have nibbles at all, to have agents be like, wow,
Oh
I want to
yeah.
read
When
all of
somebody
this.
asks for more pages, you're
Goal,
like,
you're
this
like,
is like, and this was back in
yeah,
the day where I was using the US mail.
yeah.
So you're waiting a month to get it, and you get that letter, and you're like, what is it going? It's like a college acceptance, and then it's
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, it didn't resonate with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh
No. I know. I mean, young writers don't know what SASE is,
no,
right? The
I know, I know. That was
self-addressed
I
stamped
used to be like
envelope.
concerned about the quality of the paper I was sending out. It's just nice quality, but not too pretentious.
Yeah, right. A little squirt of cologne on there,
Right, exactly. It's like Griffin and Sabine.
right? Right.
So this
So
agent, so
anyway,
you connected with this agent.
so I connected with this agent. I was thrilled because again, I admired so many of the writers who he had worked with. And we went back and forth with the manuscript for I'd say almost 2 years. And basically, it went like him making pretty strong suggestions about the work I was doing, and me not taking those suggestions because they didn't feel right for the book that I was writing.
Hmm. Which is a
But
very mature attitude for a writer. Like, to have that, because I would immediately like doubt my own viewpoint.
I, yeah,
I'd be like, yeah, I'm probably wrong because this person just sits here all day and this is their world.
yeah, but I guess I tried.
Yeah,
I really tried. I was
sure, of
like, okay,
course.
I'm gonna like go all in on this. But what I found was just that the book wasn't really going. He wanted to kind of strip down a lot of the things that were kind of stranger or different about the
Right.
books
I see.
and make it more kind of straight down the middle.
More commercial, maybe.
Maybe more, yeah. I mean, he wanted to sell it.
Yeah,
And I understand that, but I
right.
also for
And you
that
thought the heart of it was those strange things.
I mean, it's like a book about an independent bookstore with
Yeah,
like these weird clues being, showing up in books and like these strange characters who are kind of like people who had fallen through the cracks of society. And it just felt like it was being kind of stripped down to something that I didn't feel very attached to.
interesting.
In my mind, my wife and I were calling it the Hollywood rewrite,
Yeah,
which it felt like, okay,
yeah,
I really tried. I really wanted this book to
yeah.
work, but I just couldn't. When I would sit down to do the writing, I would send it off to him, and he would respond and say, "This isn't anything at all like what we talked about." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
not."
And
So
you
anyway, he
kind of
dumped.
can't
Yeah,
blame him either. You just have different
totally.
worldviews on this one piece.
Yeah, totally. And he dumped me.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was surprised that he stayed with me so long because after about the third round, it's pretty clear that I wasn't going to do what he wanted.
Yeah.
And he was making a business decision. I totally understand it. And he was a
Totally.
really nice guy,
Yeah.
and everybody who worked there was really nice in his agency. I really liked them, but it just didn't feel like it was for me. Anyway, so I put the book in the drawer. I ended up like taking it out of a drawer and undoing most of the work that we had done. And it
Interesting.
ended up being a better book because, of course, I took some of what his suggestions were
Right.
and used those. But anyway, so then I worked on it for, maybe another year or so, sent it out, and ended up with the agent that I have now, who responded to it right away.
Yeah.
It's just really he just got it.
Yeah.
Like our first conversation, he was talking about this book. I'm like, yes, this is the book I'm writing. Like you totally get it. And
Right.
actually the same thing happened with my editor, where once when he placed it with an editor and it got passed on by a lot of other editors,
Yeah.
the editor who ended up grabbing it was he got it.
Yeah.
The same thing happened where he was like, I see what you're doing here. I love it. I think it needs some work.
Right.
But kind of like the two of them were both very much attuned with my vision, which was not my experience at all with that first agent. But that's why it took 10 years.
But it's also interesting too because we talk about it getting agents quite a bit on the podcast because I think now it's harder than ever. Like my own agent says this. She's like, it's now 50 queries a day. I take maybe one person a year, kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
that's what everybody's like. And so, of
Yeah.
course, to your earlier point, if you get an offer of representation from somebody, how are you not taking it? As long as you've done your research and they're reputable,
Yep.
that kind of a thing.
Yep.
But the idea of like them not staying with the agent is it feel at first it feels like, oh, this feels like a failure. But I would contend that you going back and rewriting that book and leaving some of his stuff in, but bringing your own vision back to it, put the book in a better place than it would have been originally, and attracted that dream agent, attracted that editor who gets
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So all that needed to happen, and maybe 10 years needed to happen for it to
Yep.
get to where it was.
Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't ready. I think
Yeah.
about this is, I don't know if you have this experience, but I was kind of heartbroken when I wrote my first novel and it actually wasn't my first novel. It was the first one that I was like really done with and saw to the end and was really proud of and had a lot of people read it and so on. And I started getting nibbles when I sent it out, and none
Yeah.
of them went anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was really kind of like, man, this sucks. I just spent years on this thing and I really like put my heart into it
Of
and it
course.
didn't go anywhere. And I think about it now and I'm so glad that that book didn't
Right.
get published.
Right.
I
No,
mean, it
totally.
sounds, I mean, I never would have believed it at the time, but
Yeah.
like now I'm like, I'm so glad.
Well, I don't even, some people ask like, well, book should I start with of yours? And mine aren't a series, so it doesn't really matter. But
Mhm.
I never talk about like my first three or four. And I haven't gone back and read any of them.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Yep.
like, I've just changed so much. And, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and God for, and that's after three books that didn't get published. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an evolution. And I think what's frustrating for writers, for aspiring writers, is that they do wait years and they're like, well, what do I do? I have 150 agent rejections and I feel for them. But I think you take all that as data, and if you don't feel in your soul like, yeah, it sucks, but I'm a storyteller. I can't wait to write my next book. If you don't have that
Yeah.
spark, and everything is hanging on the fact that you wrote one novel, which again is a huge accomplishment, it's hard to do. But if you don't feel like, because I just feel like, well, I'm just going to be doing this for the rest of my life
Yeah.
and who knows what it's going to turn out to be, but I can't imagine not doing it. And I don't think unless you feel that, then that rejection is just going to it's could destroy you, because it's so, well, I put my whole life into this. It's like, well, yeah, this is stepping stone number one.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be in it for the long game.
Yeah.
You really have to be in it for the long game.
Which means you
And
have to love it. You have to have that,
yeah,
and that doesn't mean loving it every day, but it means you have some kind of passion, some kind of like almost like angst about like I want to find out what happens next.
yeah, yeah, right. I
There's
mean, I
got to
think,
there's got to be something there.
yeah, I think, there's so much that has to do with luck and timing
Totally.
and other things. And I know you experience this where you read really good books all the time that either haven't gotten published or got published and just kind of faded into the background.
Yeah,
It's never kind of found their readership. And it just feels like a lot of it is a crapshoot.
it is.
And
Yeah,
so you really can't be doing it for those like I guess those data points or measures of success that are 100% related to sales or whatever the industry, because even if you hit those marks, like maybe you won't ever again, or maybe you do, like either you haven't been there before or you won't the next time,
right.
or, like very few people are just kind of like on this like perfectly upward trajectory.
Totally.
And sometimes when they are on that trajectory, the work suffers because it seems like there's maybe less hunger to get the story right
And I
because
feel like
it's
that's
like they can,
particularly the case with like long running series that are popular.
yeah,
It's just like, how
yeah.
much more shit can this guy go through?
Yeah. Right.
But it's
Right.
also, looking back at midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore, followed by Midnight in Soap Lake, you weren't, I'm sure you weren't sitting there saying, well, this one really hit. How do I deconstruct this book
Hmm.
and repurpose it into my next
Yeah,
book? You
yeah,
just can't. Like I
yeah,
can't explain why it would tell me what you did well, regardless of reviews I read. Like I'm like,
yep,
I don't get how that's way different than the book before it, which didn't do well at all. Like I have no
right,
idea. Like, and maybe
right.
it's just me being ignorant. Um,
And if you did know that, you would have that checklist by your desk and just
right.
like
And
go
it,
through the
and
list,
it still wouldn't work.
And it's exactly,
It would still be
exactly.
two-dimensional, I think, in
Yeah.
a way. And what's interesting about you is you write weird stuff,
Uh-huh.
which I
Thank you.
love. I love weird. I love,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird, but it's not off-putting weird. It's not
yeah,
weird
yeah,
for the sake of being weird. It's just like it's pure imagination, right?
yeah,
Where
yeah,
it becomes weird in a wondrous kind of a way. And I
uh,
gravitate to that all day long. But that, I think to your first agent's point, that can be hard because a lot of the market doesn't necessarily like weird.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I look at like Midnight in Soap Lake and I'm reading this book. I'm like, what the hell is this? I mean,
yeah,
because it's a combination, anyone who describes it as Twin Peaksy is spot on, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Um, because you can boil it down to a very fairly straightforward mystery. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
if you're a mystery reader, you're like, I'm reading mystery. Got it. All the elements are here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but then it gets a little strange, and then it gets beyond strange, and then it gets like pulls me back into traditional, and then so
yeah.
but it's great because it keeps you on your toes, but that's not always an easy sell either.
Right, right, right. And I think it's in that book in particular, I think because I was writing about a real place that
Right,
had all of these fundamental elements,
right,
which actually a lot of them didn't end up in the book. They were kind of starting points for those things that ended up in the book,
right,
right? So like the microbes that are miraculous that live deep within this lake that
right,
researchers are trying to kind of tap into and commercialize
right,
and like this urban legend about this boogeyman who's like chopping up children and feeding
right,
the trees with it and that kind of thing that what I found is that at its core and this is during the process at its core I'm writing this psychological suspense novel that could have very easily kind of stayed in that lane
right,
and probably would have gotten done more quickly
right,
and maybe would be like a little bit of a safer bet in terms of the publishing industry or finding an editor or that kind of thing. But like as I was working on it, it was like I don't know. I feel like sometimes as creative writers, we have to remember the creative part, and that
totally,
of course, writing is a creative act, but all of us can kind of fall into this place where we aren't necessarily kind of focusing that much on like what can I do here? Like what are the possibilities here?
right,
And when you
right.
start exploring those possibilities, things can get a little strange, you
Depending
know?
on who you are, yeah, I 100% agree because I'm always, again, not outlining, so I'm just writing in a very linear fashion about, well, what would these people do next? What would this person do next? And it can feel all of a sudden like a Law and Order episode where you can see all the milestones up ahead,
Yeah.
but then all of a sudden you realize like, what if he just got hit by a car? Like I don't know why that popped into my head, but what if he just walked across it? What would that
Yeah.
change?
Yeah.
And what does that jog loose some weird things in his head from his child? Like whatever it is, all of a sudden, and I think if you grasp those
Hmm.
and allow yourself to at least play with them a little bit. And that doesn't mean you have to commit to them, but feel a little bit uncomfortable and be like, all right, this might be getting a little too strange and this might be uprooting everything. But that sometimes that leads you to the best places.
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, like you like that word you just used, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you're not exploring, if you're not really kind of pushing limits, then you really have to ask yourself, well, what am I doing here? Like, is
Right.
this isn't accounting? You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like it's creative writing. We should
Right.
really be thinking about like how do I kind of push myself to a point where like I at the end of the day I feel like wow, I was when I woke up this morning I was not expecting to go there. The downside of that, and I think the place where we have to be kind of I especially have to be kind of more realistic about this, is that this means more revision.
Right.
This means more kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, is this really where it wants to go? I mean, this is where it's kind of leading me, but if I go in that direction, is this going to work? You know,
Right.
is this how is this going to like hit with readers? How and so then it's like maybe dialing it back or saying, okay, that's like a really fun segue, but it just doesn't belong. Or that's a really fun segue, but I need to find a way to make it integral to the core mystery or the core story that's at work here. Because if I can't find a way to kind of thread it back in, it's probably got to go.
Yeah, it's going to feel disembodied from the rest of the story. It's like when you reading somebody's work and they go on 2 pages about some fact that you can tell like, oh, the author did this research, found this really crazy fact, and they just couldn't wait to share this,
Yeah.
but it totally doesn't belong. Like it doesn't do anything to the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. They're trying to hit a word limit, right?
And I think you are still having to think about, which is I hate the reality of this, but it is a reality because I always say like just write it, like write what you're thinking.
Hmm.
But the market does come into play because when you say how are readers going to react, you might not even get to the point where readers can react because it never goes anywhere because it's
Yeah.
a little bit too out there. So you have to have some kind of mental guardrails. And I think that's where voice comes in.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
if you're going to be a little bit unconventional or maybe even a lot unconventional, if your voice is right, it kind of doesn't matter. Like because people are reading for the voice, they're reading for the atmosphere of how you write, and they let the story develop through that voice, as opposed to just being a shitty writer writing weird stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true. That is true. Yeah, and that takes, I mean, that takes time. It
it
takes
takes
experience. It takes like
novel after
muscle
novel.
memory. It does. Yeah. And I think there's something to that. There's something to nurturing those things, even if they end up being cut at the end of the day or when you go back to revision. I know that you have countless chapters, countless beautiful passages where you're like, I spent so much blood and sweat and love to like write this thing, and I'm going to hit delete, and we can pretend there's a folder, and someday I'll get back
Oh
to it like
yeah,
my trash folder. But that doesn't, I mean, I don't know. I don't know very many writers who put things in the trash folder and actually ever get back to them because there's, something
no,
else to
yeah,
write,
I never look backwards. So a good example. So my novel coming out later this year in November.
Hmm.
It's a very simple home invasion 2 days before Christmas during a blizzard, and the home invaders have got the wrong house. That's just kind of the high
Sweet.
concept of it. And initially, it was these three guys who were kind of connected back east who were finding somebody who, turned state witness kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and so I wrote this whole book, and the invadee is a woman who's hiding from something else. So she thought it was them coming to find her, and
Yeah.
she's got a
Yeah.
daughter. So that's the setup. And my editor said, she's like, she wasn't struggling with the book. She's like, but I can't quite figure out what it is. And then she's like, it almost feels too masculine.
Hmm.
And even though it's told from the POV mainly of the woman in the house, and she said that, and it just hit me on my gear totally right because you've got kind of
Ah.
this these mobby guys, these
Hmm.
three mobby guys, and one of them is the secondary point of view. I replaced all three of those characters with three totally different people,
Huh.
cult, wildlife cult people,
Yep. Yep.
crazy family, father and two adult kids.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, that was half the book I had to rewrite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't, and yeah, it took me months, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sitting there thinking like, this is a shame. I'm like, I'm excited to make this book better, acknowledging that it's a massive pain in the ass. And these characters who I really got to know don't exist in my world
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
but that's just part of it
That's
because
awesome.
my
Yeah.
editor could see things for the market
Hmm.
that I can't. That's her job,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
so I need that guidance. And
Yeah.
that means you're leaving a lot on the cutting room floor. And that has to be okay, right?
Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that it's such a gift to have a good editor,
Oh,
an
totally.
editor who can see things. I mean, it's just I mean, I feel so lucky to the editor that I
I
have. I'm
agree.
going through a revision right now of a book that's coming out probably about a year from now. And just a handful of notes. Like he really was, he's enthusiastic about the book. He really likes it. one of the notes was basically about shifting the timeline. If you shift the timeline in this
Hmm.
one way, it allows for this kind of particular scene where the protagonist finds the body instead of learning about the body later
It
on.
comes
And
together more
it's
neatly.
brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. It's
But
a total pain
that's
in
a
the ass.
big note to
It's
shift the
huge.
timeline.
Exactly, because all of a sudden it's like you move like this piece here and all the beads, of
Right.
course,
And what
like
characters knew then that they don't know now or
totally.
whatever.
Totally. And it's hard. It's really hard.
Right.
But I'm
And
so excited about it because it's like so spot on. It's like, God, that's to see that. To read somebody else's work and see that is like the gift of a good editor. It's
yeah,
like
and I think writers who beat themselves up are writers who are like, I should have seen that. And the reality is I'm second guessing myself every time I sit down to write. Like I'm
sure.
like, I don't know if this is right. I just so all you have to rely on is your instinct, but you have to hone
Yeah.
those instincts over, decades.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're still going to be full of self-doubt. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what you have to be willing to sign up for.
But again, this is why you're a good writer. Like if you
Maybe.
didn't have that self-doubt, seriously, because then you'd be like overly confident in the work that you're doing, means that you're willing to kind of let it go before it's reached like its fruition or as good
Right.
as it can be. And
Right.
if you and people who kind of are like a little too pleased with their work
Yeah.
tend to I
Boy, that is
my
never me.
no, it's never me. I mean, I'll feel like that after like I've just slogged through a beast of a project where I'm like, man, I feel good about
Yeah.
this now. But like during the process, oh man, no, you should be beating yourself up.
Yeah, and you have to balance it eventually with some kind of confidence to the
Mhm.
confidence that allows you to at least let go, whether that's I'm letting go because it's just got nobody wants this book, or I'm letting go that it's out in the world. But when
Mhm.
I finish, I write a draft and then I probably write it two more times.
Mhm.
The first one's a heavier pass, the second one's a light pass. Give it to my agent who gives me notes,
Mhm.
and then goes to the editor. But like when I finish that second pass, I don't feel like I've never in my life typed the end in my book
Yeah.
because I'm like, this is not the end. This is the best that I could do. I've
Yeah.
carried it this far. Now I need smarter people to tell
Yeah.
me how to get it to the finish line. So I never feel like it's done, but I have the confidence, and that maybe that does give me confidence because I'm like, yeah, it's not perfect and it will never be perfect, but it's the best that I can do, and that allows me to let it go a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and also to have like time away from it so that you can see how it
Right.
lands for either yourself or just in, in the world,
Right.
right? Like it's interesting, if you think about Tell Me What You Did and
Yeah.
how like the remarkable success of that book, and congratulations,
Thank
by the
you.
way. It's so amazing.
I
It's
appreciate
a
it.
great book and it's great to see it like getting read in a way that
It's a
it
weird
deserves.
experience.
It's great. I mean, you've
Yeah.
earned it, and the book has earned it, and you should be proud of that.
Thank you.
That those things. But I think that I think that like um, when those things align, I kind of lost my thought here, but when those things align, you are you've like put it out in the world, and you don't know how it's going to land. You don't know whether it's going to find 5 readers or 500,000 readers.
Right.
And there's an element of kind of like letting it go and let time like decide those things, right?
Yeah. Right.
Um, but in the meantime, like that gap between when you put the end on that book
Yeah.
and it was out there in the world, a remarkable success, you're working on something else.
If not already done with, yeah, your mind is elsewhere.
Your mind is elsewhere, and you've kind of like let it go in a way that kind of keeps you focused on like the reason you wrote that book in the first place, which is that you're a storyteller, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think I don't know, I just think it's really an interesting thing the way that like if you kind of hit the end and like released it into the world immediately and knew right away like how it was going to hit readers and all the rest of that, that's such a totally different experience
Yeah.
than like this guesswork. You don't know. You have
Right.
no idea.
Right.
And it's like that's such an important part of like what makes us committed writers is not knowing.
Right. Because as you know, the reality of it is when you finish the draft enough to give it to your agent, assuming it is eventually going to sell, from that day, you're looking at maybe 18 months.
Oh man. Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
writing a book a year, you probably will already have another book written by the time this one comes out.
Yep.
And you're
Yep.
just in a different universe and you forget why you even wrote that. I remember with telling me what you did. The big thing for me on that book when I sat down to write it is I was pissed off because I was a very frustrated writer because the previous book was not well received by my,
Yeah.
and this is, I'm saying this lightly, not well received by my agent and my editor. It was a different kind of a book. It was a book that was, I loved it.
Mhm.
Um, and it didn't do that great. It didn't flounder, but it was like whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down to say, I'm angry and I want to write an angry book and I want it to be propulsive and fierce and in your face and unapologetic because that's the mood I'm in.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's all I had. And I knew
Yeah.
it was going to be about a podcast.
Yep.
But so it's like it's funny, like somehow that you maybe you capture that anger and that resonates with people, but you don't know. You just like you just listen to yourself and you know,
Yeah.
I remember my agent even said to me, she's like, I was never going to tell you this, but she says something to the extent of this is my agent I've been with 20 years. I was worried about your career after that previous book.
Yikes.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, so that's where I was, right? That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm just this perpetual mid-list author, which is great. I'm getting published, I'm getting readers.
Yeah.
Life is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Right.
But to hear that, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a heady thing to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a
So
good thing that you didn't hear it when you were sitting down to write the book, right?
and you can go right back to that place. Like that's the other thing too
Easily.
is no one successful book is any guarantee of anything.
Easily.
So
Yeah.
all you can
Yeah.
do is write what you feel passionate about and learn from people smarter than you who are giving
Yeah.
you good advice.
Yeah, and there's books that just like explode into the stratosphere that in ways that you just can't even fathom, right?
Right.
And then what I'm getting at is like there's different levels of success.
A hundred percent.
There's books that like kind of like last over time. There's books that take off and then like disappear. There's like all kinds of different ways of measuring it. There's books that like nobody reads but grandma, and grandma's like weeping because they think it's so beautiful, you know.
Right. Right.
And
Or
so
there's like Gravity's Rainbow, or everyone has it
yeah,
on their bookshelf, but
yeah,
nobody reads it.
and nobody can get through the end, including
Right.
me.
Right. I haven't even tried it.
Yeah, I've tried a couple of times, not in a long time.
Wow, yeah, it's crazy. Well, listen,
Yeah,
we're running short on time. We're going to
yeah,
wrap up,
absolutely.
but
Yep.
before we do, we're going to do our own little storytelling. This is
All right.
the making it up portion where I've chosen three books at random from my bookshelf. We're going to choose one, a random sentence from a random page. I'll read that sentence. You've heard it before. Um, I'll read that sentence and then you give me the next sentence or two. We can do whatever we want with this,
All right.
and it'll last just a couple minutes. I think these are all, yeah, mysteries, thrillers. Kelly Simmons, Where She Went.
Okay.
Emily Smith's You Always Come Back. And Abbott Kahler's Where You End. So choose one of those.
I'm kind of the where you end seems appropriate since we're about to end the
Yeah, and
podcast, and it's got a creepy cover.
Abbott is phenomenal. She's a wonderful person and a great writer. She's really known for a lot of her nonfiction, and you would love this book because it's weird. It's
Oh,
weird in
cool.
like a
Oh, cool.
really, really great way. Yeah,
What's
she's
her first name?
Abbott,
Oh,
Abbott.
Abbott is her first name. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, Abbott
yeah.
Kahler. Okay, cool.
So give me a page between 1 and 318. It's a short book.
Let's do 261.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly scan page 261. It's the beginning of a chapter. Um, all right, you can do whatever you want with this.
I thought that was the sentence.
It could be that too.
Okay.
It's internal monologue. Why does Jude continue to torture and taunt me after I've made it clear I want nothing to do with her?
Last night at 3 in the morning, I woke up and Jude was standing on my dresser wearing a tutu and holding a stuffed rainbow unicorn.
It's Unicorn Day, she had proclaimed. I fumbled with a light to turn it on to see the extent of her lunacy. I don't know what that means, I said. I'm just trying to sleep. She said, Unicorn Day is very special. There are 3 tests you have to pass, and then any dream you have will be yours.
When Jude got like this, I never knew whether I should play along or try to set her straight and bring her back to reality. But lately, she'd been doing things that had felt more important, more pertinent to the reality we were living in. And so I decided to take the test.
But I didn't realize her reality had become unmoored from mine, and she was a boat drifting out to sea, getting more and more lost. But it all crystallized the moment she reached in behind the waistband of her tutu and pulled out a single razor blade and said, Test 1 is called Rivers Flow.
Man, that's messed up.
We can call it there.
No, I think we should keep going. We'll do a couple more. 15 minutes later, I was following her through the woods in the dark. Both of our palms were bleeding, but we had shook on it, high-fived. Both of us a little bloody, but none the worse for wear. Period. Test 2 was coming up.
It was hard to see, even with the headlamps we both wore, and she didn't allow either of us to have shoes. So I stumbled over scratchy dirt, twisted pine needles, and stubbed my toe more than once on a rock. But we finally did reach the river, more of a creek. And she said, Here it is. And as my flashlight swept and then focused, I saw the wooden basket on the ground next to the running water. And I knew there was something not only in the basket, something alive in the basket.
That's really good. This is test 2. When she opened the basket, the creature crawled up her arm, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen in my life. This thing clearly was not from Earth.
All right, we call it there.
That
was creepy.
That was good, man.
Yeah,
I love that.
that's
I
fun.
love that back and forth.
I loved watching you like thinking, just like you get so excited, you're like, oh man, there's so many things I can do with this.
Yeah,
It's a good exercise.
It is. It's great. It's good tag team.
But it was so I had the profound pleasure of interviewing you for your release of Midnight in Soap Lake at the Tattered Cover, and I'm glad we've gotten to become friends since. And I hope we get a chance to see each other a little bit more often than just at the conferences. Although you're way up in the Pacific Northwest and not in Colorado now, but hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, well, my next book is set in Denver, so
great!
I'll be doing some book tour there.
That would be great. I'm interviewing somebody there Thursday night, so I'm excited.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just cool. I don't go down to Denver all that often, so it's fun to like just talk to people and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to. I would love to be part of any event you might have in Colorado.
Yeah, awesome. And let me know if you get out to the Pacific Northwest. If you do any events in Seattle, maybe for the new release. Or
I'll talk to my publisher and see where they want to send me.
Vancouver, Portland. Yep.
I would love it.
Cool.
All right, brother. Good seeing your face and good talking to you.
Happy New Year. Happy 2026. Good luck with the writing, of course.
You as well. Take care, man.
Take care, bud.
Bye.
See you.
All right, friends, that is my conversation with Matthew Sullivan. It was a great one. I thought that storytelling that was getting far out there in the best possible way. So I think we did a good job. I think we did okay service to that opening line from Abbott Kahler. If you want to find out more about Midnight at Soap Lake or find out more about Matt, just go to his website, which is matthewjsullivan.com. And you can pop on over to carterwilson.com for all things related to me and my books and my podcast. Or you can head on over to Unbound Writer if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, writing coaching with me. And we are getting a little bit more traction about hosting a writing retreat in France, probably Paris, hopefully towards the end of this year. So if that's of interest to you or potential interest, then keep following Unbound Writer on the retreats page to see if we put something up. I'm sure it'll be announced in my newsletter, so sign up for my newsletter as well. That is it for now. Thanks, as always, for watching and or listening. Of course, another episode coming up very soon. In the meantime, friends, take care.